Hey guys, tonight we are going to do something a little different. We're not just exploring history, but the history of what could have been. We are diving into one of the foundational myths of the Western world and twisting it, breaking it, to see what spills out. We're traveling back to a time before time was truly measured, to the very war that shaped reality, the Great Titanomachy. You will be there for the final, thunderous moments of the 10-year battle between the Titans and the Olympians. You'll feel the mountains themselves shudder. You'll taste the metallic tang of divine blood or ichor on the air. And you'll see what happens when the story you think you know goes horribly, horribly wrong. This is one of those alternate timelines where, let's be honest, you probably won't survive this, but the journey there is the fun part. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always fascinating to see where you're all listening from, so feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the noise. It's not just loud, it's structural. It's the kind of sound that feels like it's happening to your bones directly, a deep, resonant grinding of stone and a high, piercing shriek of tearing air. You are an observer, a phantom on the howling winds that whip across the scarred peaks of Mount Othrys, the Titans' great fortress mountain. For 10 years this war has raged, a decade of such cataclysmic violence, it has reshaped the very face of the world. Below you, gods clash with the brutal physicality of collapsing stars. The air, thick with dust and ozone, shimmers with power. This isn't the clean, heroic art you've seen on ancient pottery. This is a family feud at maximum volume, a terrifying, desperate brawl for the throne of the universe. The stories you've heard, primarily from the poet Hesiod's Theogony, tell of a tide-turning moment. They speak of Zeus, the young, ambitious challenger, freeing his monstrous uncles from their subterranean prison, Tartarus. The three Cyclopes, brilliant smiths, who would forge for him the lightning bolt. The three Hecatoncheires, the 100-handers, living siege engines who would throw mountains as if they were pebbles. That is the story of the victors. But from your vantage point, drifting in the chaos, you see a different truth unfolding. The gates of Tartarus remain sealed. There are no lightning bolts. Zeus, for all his fury and might, is fighting with his bare hands. You watch him, a figure of incandescent rage, wrestling with his own father, Cronus. Cronus is not the frail, bearded old man you might picture. He is immense, a being of raw power and cosmic antiquity, his form seemingly carved from the adamantine rock of the mountain itself. He wields no lightning, but he clutches a sickle, the same jagged blade he once used to ambush and castrate his own father, Uranus. It glints with a malevolent light, a sliver of solidified malice. The younger Olympians, Hera, Poseidon, Hades, Hestia, Demeter, fight with a desperate ferocity, but they are outmatched. They are a generation of gods, yes, but the Titans are forces of nature. They are the concepts of time, memory, the sun, and the sea made manifest. How do you kill an idea? Historians still argue whether the myth of the Titanomachy was a cultural memory of conquest, new gods of Indo-European, invaders supplanting the older, chthonic deities of the original inhabitants, or if it's a purely philosophical allegory of order triumphing over primordial chaos. As you watch the Titan Iapetus tear a fissure in the earth to swallow a contingent of lesser spirits, it certainly feels more like the latter. This is chaos made manifest. There's a strange and forgotten branch of Greek belief, the Orphic tradition, that told of an entirely different cosmic succession, one that was supposed to end with the gentle god Dionysus. There is nothing gentle here. Zeus lands a blow that sends a tremor through the continent, but Cronus barely flinches. The old king, fueled by a paranoia that has festered for eternity, gives a guttural roar. He is the god of the harvest, yes, but a harvest is at its core a violent act of reaping. He swings his sickle. It doesn't sever a limb, but it slices through the very air, unmaking the divine energy that surrounds Zeus. You see the young god falter, his radiant light dimming for just a second. It is the opening Cronus needs. He lunges, not with the grace of a king, but with the brute force of an avalanche. There is no heroic final stand. There is only the sickening crunch of divine will breaking. Cronus has Zeus by the throat, lifting him from the ground. The younger god struggles, growing weaker. Around them, the battle halts. The other titans, their bodies mountains of muscle and rock, turn to watch. Atlas, Hyperion, Creus, their faces are grim, impassive masks of victory. The remaining Olympians freeze, their hope extinguishing like a candle in a hurricane. You get a front row seat to the moment an age dies, and a far more terrible one is born. Cronus doesn't kill his son. That would be a release. Instead, he slams him down onto the broken plateau of Othrys, the impact echoing like the crack of doom. Zeus lies defeated, his divine form writhing, but contained by his father's immense gravity. A roar splits the sky, but it is not the triumphant cry of a new king. The echoes of that terrible, triumphant roar fade into a silence that is somehow heavier and more menacing than the preceding decade of war. There is no feasting, no joyous revelry on the peaks of Othrys. Cronus, it seems, isn't offering a grace period for his new, or rather, resumed administration. His victory is not a cause for celebration, but a confirmation of his deepest, most ancient fear. That power is fleeting, and children are rivals. His paranoia, the very thing that drove him to swallow his first 5 children, has been vindicated and sharpened to a razor's edge by Zeus's rebellion. Now that paranoia is the new architect of the cosmos. Your ghostly form drifts through the eerie calm, watching the new reality congeal. The defeated Olympians are gathered, huddled together not by familial affection, but by the sheer gravitational pull of their failure. Zeus, still struggling weakly, is the centerpiece of this grim tableau. His 2 brothers, Hades and Poseidon, are forced to their knees beside him. Poseidon, without the freedom of his oceans to command, seems diminished, his beard caked with dust instead of sea salt. Hades, ever sullen, simply stares at the rock beneath him, as if already wishing for the darkness of his underworld, a darkness that will soon become a prison rather than a kingdom. Hera, Demeter, and Hestia are bound by shimmering, ethereal chains forged from cooled despair. They were the new generation, the bright future. Now they are just loose ends. Cronus surveys them, his massive form blotting out the faint, bruised light of the sky. He doesn't gloat. He simply inspects his work. There seems to be no Titan equivalent of an HR department to handle processing defeated enemies, so Cronus manages the affair personally. He gives a series of low, guttural commands to his brethren. Atlas, whose strength will not be condemned to holding up the sky in this timeline, grips Zeus's bonds. The other Titans move with a slow, deliberate purpose, their task clear: to escort the Olympians to the deepest, most secure prison in existence. They are to be taken to Tartarus, the great pit. The journey down is said to take 9 days for a bronze anvil to fall from heaven to earth, and another 9 for it to fall from earth to the pit's floor. For the Olympians, the fall from grace is instantaneous. As they are led away, a procession of fading light dragged into eternal shadow, you feel the world's axis tilt towards despair. But Cronus does not watch them go. His mind is already on another, deeper threat. A potential threat. He knows of the existence of his other siblings, the ones his father Uranus imprisoned long ago, the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires. He knows they possess a power and a craft that could, one day, arm another rebellion. Zeus failed to free them, but who's to say another upstart wouldn't succeed? For a being like Cronus, a 1% chance of rebellion is a 100% certainty that needs to be crushed. So begins the first act of his new kingship, a dark catabasis, a descent into the underworld. This isn't the hero's journey you've heard of, where a protagonist ventures into the dark to gain wisdom or rescue a loved one. No, this is a jailer's journey, a tyrant's pilgrimage to reinforce a prison. You follow his immense, shadowy form as he tears a new passage into the earth, the rock groaning in protest. He descends past the roots of mountains, through veins of sleeping silver and gold, deeper than the realm of Hades, into the primordial gloom where even dreams die. The air grows thick and still, tasting of rust and finality. He arrives at the great bronze gates of Tartarus, the very ones that have held his monstrous siblings for eons. He is not here to open them. He is here to make them obsolete. With his bare hands, he begins to work, not as a smith, but as an anti-smith. He doesn't build, he seals. He pulls on the geological strata, folding layers of granite and basalt over the ancient prison. He calls on the darkest, most inert powers of the earth, weaving spells of stasis and silence. His security measures are, to put it mildly, a bit extra. He is creating a prison within a prison, a tomb for living beings who are now buried so deep they are not just forgotten by the world above, but by the very planet itself. He will ensure that no one can ever again seek their aid. He is cutting off all loose ends, burning all bridges, and then salting the earth where the bridges once stood. This act sets the tone for everything that is to come. Scholars still debate whether the supreme god's power in ancient, Near Eastern mythologies was seen as a creative force for the community or purely a tool of absolute, top-down control. Cronus has just answered that question for his own reign. His is a power of negation, of suppression. His new order is not a set of laws or a celestial court. It is a lead blanket thrown over the cosmos. It is the chilling promise that there will be no more stories, no more ambitions, no more change. The dust of Cronus's descent and re-emergence settles, but the oppressive atmosphere on Mount Othrys remains. Now that the immediate threats are neutralized, locked away in a prison wrapped in a planet, the business of governance begins. This is not a moment for constitutions or councils. It is the universe's most terrifying corporate restructuring, and you are witnessing the first and only board meeting. Cronus sits upon a throne that seems to have grown organically from the mountain's peak, a jagged seat of black rock that offers no comfort, only authority. Before him, his brothers and loyalist sisters stand, their immense forms casting long, distorted shadows in the bruised twilight. There is no suggestion box here. The agenda has a single item: the distribution of absolute power. In the stories you know, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades drew lots for their domains, a nod, however small, to chance and a shared victory. Zeus won the sky, Poseidon the seas, and Hades the underworld. It was a division, an allocation of responsibility. Cronus does not deal in lots, he deals in decrees. He speaks, his voice the grinding of tectonic plates, and assigns the cosmos as a master assigns chores. First, he addresses Hyperion, the titan of heavenly light. You see him, tall and severe, his skin glowing with a faint, internal luminescence. He and his sister wife Theia are to command the sky's great lamps. Their son, Helios, will be yoked to the sun chariot. Their daughter, Selene, will be chained to the moon. But this is not the gift of light. It is a sentence. The sun, under Hyperion's new mandate, will not be a source of life-giving warmth. It will be a relentless, unblinking eye of surveillance. It will bake the land, bleach the color from the world, and offer no gentle dawns or soft sunsets. Only a brutal, binary switch from glaring light to absolute dark. Classicists still debate whether the worship of gods like Helios represented a literal belief in a man driving a chariot, or a more abstract way of interfacing with the immense, impersonal power of the sun. In this new world, there is no abstraction. There is only the harsh reality of a celestial warden. Next, Cronus turns his gaze to Oceanus, the great serpent river who encircles the known world. His power is already immense, his domain the untamed outer sea. Cronus doesn't grant him new territory, but confirms his role with a new, chilling directive. His waters are to be a wall. No longer a place of mystery and potential, the world's oceans under this regime will be an impassable barrier of dread. They will be filled with monsters not as a natural hazard, but as a deliberate garrison. The waves will not whisper of distant lands, they will roar a single monotonous word. No, the world is not to be explored, it is to be contained. To his brother Iapetus, he gives a particularly grim portfolio. Iapetus, the piercer, the titan of the west, father of Prometheus and Atlas. In the old world, Atlas was punished by being made to hold up the sky. But here, with no great crime to punish, Atlas is just another powerful brute. The pillars of heaven don't need a porter. Instead, Iapetus is made the warden of mortals. It will be his job to ensure that the nascent spark of humanity never, ever catches flame. He is to watch over the tribes of soft-fleshed creatures, to stamp out any sign of hubris, innovation, or community that extends beyond brute survival. He is the enforcer of mediocrity, the divine boot that will forever press down on the human face. And what of the more cerebral titans? Cronus, the titan of the intellect and the inquisitive mind, is given the job that is the cosmic equivalent of being an internal affairs investigator in a police state. His role is to be the sentinel against dangerous thoughts. He is to travel the world on the winds, listening for the whispers of rebellion, the curse of philosophy, the cancer of hope. His new job description probably isn't a whole lot of fun, but it is essential to Cronus's static utopia. His brother Creus, a lesser-known figure often associated with the constellations, is tasked with locking the stars in place. The night sky will become a fixed, rigid map of eternal sameness, offering no guidance to sailors, no inspiration to poets, a black ceiling studded with cold, dead diamonds. The Titanesses, too, are given their places in this new structure. Cronus's own wife, Rhea, who once so cleverly saved Zeus from being eaten, is now reduced to a symbol of defeated fertility. She is a queen without an heir, her motherhood a source of eternal suspicion. Themis, who in another life would have been the embodiment of divine law and justice, now finds her concept of law reduced to the simple, brutal whims of Cronus. Mnemosyne, the mother of the muses and the font of memory, is now tasked with curating a single memory for all of existence, the memory of what happened to the Olympians. It is a memory that does not inspire, but warns. With the assignments delivered, a new and terrible blueprint for reality is complete. The cosmic restructuring is complete, the decrees issued from on high. Now you feel the results. You are no longer an ethereal observer floating above a mountain of gods. You are now down in the world, a presence on the wind, a witness to the first day of the new regime. And it begins with the sun. There is no gentle awakening, no soft fingers of dawn painting the eastern sky in hues of rose and gold. Instead, the horizon simply cracks open, and a brutal, white light spills across the land like a physical substance. This is Hyperion's command in action, executed by his miserable son, Helios. The sun chariot rises, not with triumphant glory, but with the grim, punctual despair of a prison guard starting his shift. The light does not warm, it interrogates. It strips the landscape of all softness, all nuance. Colors seem to fade under its relentless glare, bleached into pale imitations of themselves. You feel the heat begin to build, a dry, oppressive heat that carries no sense of life or growth. Getting a tan in this world seems impossible. You'd skip straight to the boiled lobster phase. The shadows cast by rocks and the few hardy trees are not cool refuges. They are stark, black gashes cut into the world, the only escape from the unwavering celestial eye. As Helios drags his fiery burden across the dome of the sky, you can almost feel his resentment, a bitter heat radiating down alongside the light. The day is no longer a cycle of life. It is an ordeal to be endured. The sunset is as abrupt as the dawn. The light doesn't fade, it switches off. The world is plunged into an ink-black, profound darkness, and a sudden, biting cold rushes in to fill the void left by the heat. For a terrifyingly long time, there is nothing. No starlight, no moon, just a perfect, silent black. Then a silver scar appears in the sky. It is Selene, the moon goddess, forced to begin her own nightly patrol. Her light is heartbreakingly beautiful, but it is the beauty of sorrow. It is a cold, sterile silver that illuminates a world of ghosts. It makes the rocks glisten like bone, and the silent land look like the bottom of a dead sea. And the stars, oh, the stars are perhaps the most terrifying change of all. They are no longer the twinkling, shifting points of light that ancient peoples would have used to tell stories and find their way. Under the new administration of Creus, they are perfect, unwavering, and utterly fixed. They form a rigid, geometric pattern, a celestial cage. There are no wanderers, no planets, as the Greeks would call them. No shooting stars streak across the deep, offering a moment of fleeting hope. The night sky is a grand, intimidating clockwork model, a constant reminder of the unchangeable, eternal order that Cronus has imposed. You wouldn't need a weather forecast in this world. It's always the same. Day is glare, night is freezing, and tomorrow will be exactly the same. You drift away from the stark inland plains, drawn by a continuous, deafening roar. You arrive at the coast and find the source. This is the work of Oceanus. The sea is no longer an element, it is an entity of pure hostility. The great world river, once a source of mystery, is now a border wall. The waves do not roll or crash with any discernible rhythm. They heave and slam against the shoreline in a fit of endless, mindless rage. The water is not the vibrant blue of life, but a churning, slate gray and opaque. It's certainly not holiday brochure friendly. In the stories of the world that might have been, the sea foam, the Afras, could birth a goddess of love and beauty. Here, you see the foam that is churned up by this chaotic sea. It's a greasy, yellow-gray scum that clings to the rocks, smelling of brine and decay. It is a symbol not of birth, but of sterile, impotent fury. You look out over the boundless, angry expanse and understand that there is no escape. Maritime historians in our world still argue how early sailors navigated the open ocean, debating the use of star patterns or sunstones. That debate is meaningless here. The stars are a useless grid, and the sea itself is a living monster. You can sense them just below the turbulent surface, shapes that defy reason, shadows that move with a terrifying speed and purpose. The ocean is a garrison, and its soldiers are the nightmares of the deep. In another world, a place of curious minds, a complex device like the Antikythera mechanism might one day be built, an intricate system of gears designed to map the movements of the heavens. It would be an act of profound intellectual ambition, a testament to humanity. Your back aches. It's a dull, constant throb that you've known for all of your 20-something years. You are crouched at the mouth of a shallow cave, the only home you have ever known. Your stomach is a hollow knot of hunger, and the grit of sand and dust in your mouth is as familiar as your own heartbeat. This is your life. You are one of them now, an early human living under the leaden sky of the Titan's eternal reign. The ethereal, ghostly perspective is gone. You are trapped in flesh and bone, and the world you inhabit is the one forged by Cronus's paranoia. Your family, your tribe, is a small, hunched group of about 15 souls. You are bound not by love, but by necessity. You watch each other with a constant, low-grade suspicion. The concept of law is utterly alien. In another universe, the Titaness Themis might have whispered the foundations of justice into the human soul. Here she is a silent slave, and so your only law is the law of the biggest club. Disputes over a mouthful of scavenged meat are settled with grunts and violent blows. The warden of mortals, Iapetus, ensures no higher order ever develops. A flash flood that wipes out a promising settlement, a strange sickness that culls the cleverest among a tribe. These are not accidents. They are cosmic corrections, divine pruning to keep humanity small, stupid, and scared. A typical day is a study in survival. When the sun, that relentless white eye of Hyperion, cracks open the sky, you and your kin retreat into the deepest shadows of the cave. To be caught in the open is to have your skin bake and your eyes burn. The glare is a physical weight. So you wait, dozing fitfully in the stuffy dark, listening to the anxious breathing of your family. The real work happens in the frantic, brief twilight hours between the sun's departure and the moon's cold arrival. You scramble from the cave, your eyes scanning the barren landscape. The diet is not what one might call artisanally sourced. You dig for tough, bitter roots with a sharpened stick. You turn over rocks, hoping for insects or lizards. Occasionally, the hunters manage to bring down a scrawny, goat-like creature, and the tribe gorges for a day before the gnawing hunger returns. There is no art. You have seen ancient handprints on the walls of deeper caves left by generations long dead. But no one adds to them. No one is moved to capture the image of the hunt or the shape of an animal. Why would they? There is no beauty to commemorate. The idea of a Venus figurine, those small, voluptuous statues of fertility found in our own prehistory, is unthinkable here. To carve a celebration of life, fertility, and abundance in a world defined by scarcity and death would be an act of madness, an insult to the stingy, cruel gods. The nights are almost worse than the days. The cold is a predator. You huddle together for warmth, the stench of unwashed bodies and fear thick in the air. You stare out at the unmoving, terrifyingly perfect grid of stars and Seleni's silver, judgmental eye. Archaeologists and anthropologists in our world still argue whether early religion was born from awe and wonder at the natural world, or from fear of its inexplicable power. You know the answer. You live it. Your gods are the sun that burns you, the cold that kills you, the earth that starves you, and the sky that watches you with utter indifference. Complaining to management is not an option. Sickness and injury are death sentences. But sometimes people get sick in their minds. A pressure builds, a madness born from the constant, grinding despair. The elders of your tribe have a solution for this. It is a grim ritual, a form of medicine that is hard to distinguish from torture. They practice trepanation. You have seen it done twice. A man is held down, and another uses a sharp piece of flint to slowly, laboriously drill a hole in his skull. The stated reason is to let the screaming spirits out. It has never worked. It is a desperate, misguided surgery performed by a people with no access to wisdom, no Hephaestus to inspire the working of metal, no Apollo to whisper the secrets of healing. There is no sense of progress. Your tools are the same as your great-grandfather's tools. Your cave is the same as his cave. The homeowners association is, thankfully, non-existent, but so is any hope of improvement. To dream of a better shelter, a more efficient tool, a more just way of living, these thoughts are dangerous sparks that your very soul has been trained to extinguish. Life is a flat circle of hunger, fear, and toil. You look at the newest baby in the tribe, swaddled in a stiff animal hide, and you feel no joy for its future. You only feel a deep, aching pity. It has been born into a cage, and it will never even know that bars are not the natural shape of the sky. Huddled in the freezing dark, you feel the weight of that sky, and for a moment the gnawing hunger in your belly has a new companion, a quiet, simmering despair. You've come to understand in the marrow of your bones that this is all there is. The struggle is the point. The misery is the design. But the universe, even one as tightly controlled as this, is full of cracks. And through one of those cracks, a flicker of something different arrives. His name is Prometheus, and he is the son of your warden, Iapetus. He is a titan, but he does not carry the brutish indifference of his kin. His defining feature is his gaze. It seems to look not at you, but through you, into the long, bleak corridor of your future. He is the god of forethought, and what he foresees for your kind is an eternity of grubbing in the dirt for bitter roots, followed by a cold, meaningless death. And he, alone among his kind, decides it is not acceptable. One evening, during the frantic twilight scramble for food, you see him. He walks into your small encampment, and no one raises a club. There is no menace in his form. He's not here as a motivational speaker. The Titan's HR department clearly frowns on those, but as a silent revolutionary. He carries a long, dry stalk of a giant fennel plant, a narthex. In the world that never was, he would use such a stalk to steal the fire of Olympus. Here, his gift is infinitely more humble and perhaps more potent. He cracks the stalk open, and into his palm spills not fire, but a small handful of seeds, the seeds of a wild, edible grass. He doesn't speak your tongue of grunts and fearful cries. He communicates with the universal language of purpose. You and your tribe watch, mesmerized, as he finds a small patch of earth near the trickle of brown water you use as a stream. He scratches the soil with a sharp stone, lays the seeds within, and covers them gently. Then he looks at you, at your hollow cheeks and terrified eyes, and gestures to the sky, to the water, and to the ground. The message is clear, a concept so alien it is almost incomprehensible. Wait, nurture, the earth will provide. It is the beginning of the Neolithic revolution, a revolution of one. For the first time, your tribe has a shared project that isn't rooted in fear. You guard the small patch of dirt. You chase away scavenging birds. When the rains fail, you carry water in cupped hands to moisten the soil. And one day it happens. A tiny spear of green pierces the dirt, then another and another. A wave of something hot and strange washes over you. It is a feeling you cannot name. It is hope, but hope is illegal in the age of Cronus. Innovation is treason. The Titans have a zero-tolerance policy for agriculture. A patch of cultivated green, no matter how small, is a stain of rebellion on the perfectly bleak canvas of their world. Perhaps it is the all-seeing eye of Hyperion's sun that spots the anomaly. Or perhaps it is the ever-watchful Cronus, the Titan of inquiry, who senses the dangerous new thought, the idea of a future different from the present. The discovery is silent and the response is swift. Prometheus is taken. He is not challenged to a grand battle. He is simply apprehended. His crime is not theft, but unauthorized creation. And his punishment will not be the theatrical agony of Zeus's design. Cronus has no need for eagles or public spectacle. His cruelty is colder, more absolute, and perfectly tailored to the victim. He takes Prometheus, the god of forethought, and drags him deep into the earth, into a chamber of absolute silence and absolute darkness, far from any light, sound, or touch. He is left there, alone and immortal. His punishment is his own gift. He can foresee everything. He can imagine humanity's potential in perfect, excruciating detail. He sees you discovering the wheel, forging bronze, writing poetry, building cities that kiss the clouds. He sees every song that could be sung, every piece of art that could be made, every law that could bring justice. And he is forced to watch these infinite, beautiful futures bloom and then wither inside the prison of his own mind, unable to share a single spark. It's the ultimate case of being forced to watch your passion projects die for eternity. The retribution for your tribe is more direct. There is no pronouncement of guilt. One night, a tremor shakes the ground. The small stream that nourished your tiny farm vanishes, swallowed by the earth. The patch of green withers and dies in a single day under the sun's malevolent glare. The lesson is brutal and clear. Philosophers and theologians in another reality will argue for centuries whether humanity's greatest gift is the freedom to choose our destiny, or if that freedom is our greatest curse. Here, in this world, you learn the Titan's answer. The curse of choice has been removed for your own good. You stare at the barren patch of soil where green shoots once grew, where a future was briefly planted. You had the memory of the little green shoots, and the terrible silence that followed their destruction is now etched into the soul of your people. The lesson was clear: do not create, do not innovate, do not hope. The only path to survival in a world ruled by callous, easily angered forces is to be as quiet and unnoticeable as possible. Your life, already a grim cycle of toil, now becomes dominated by a new, exhausting labor. The endless work of appeasement. Your religion is not one of love or praise. It is a meticulously choreographed ritual of begging to be ignored. The goal of every prayer is to end up in the divine spam folder. You have rituals for each of the great, terrifying powers. When Hyperion's sun reaches its zenith, the moment of most intense, punishing heat, you perform the rite of the sun's passing. While the rest of the tribe huddles in the deepest part of the cave, one of the elders must go out and stand on a designated flat rock, a natural altar of sorts. They don't raise their arms in praise. They bow face down, forehead pressed against the scorching stone. They must stay there motionless for the hottest part of the day, baking and sweating under the relentless glare. The offering is their suffering. The prayer is a silent, pained plea. We are small and we are burned. See our submission. Please just keep moving. Then there is the appeasement of Iapetus, your ultimate warden. This is perhaps the most painful ritual of all, performed once every turn of the seasons. On this day, your tribe gathers, and each member must select their single best tool, the sharpest flint axe head, the most perfectly balanced digging stick, the hide scraper that works better than any other. You place these objects in a pile. Then the tribe's leader, a man whose main job qualification is being expendable, takes a large, heavy stone and one by one smashes your best work to pieces. It is a ritual of deliberate self-sabotage, a cultural lobotomy. It is a direct response to the lesson of Prometheus. You are demonstrating in the clearest possible terms that you are not getting too clever, you are not striving, you are not a threat. These practices are, at their core, a form of what historians call apotropaic magic, actions taken to ward off evil. Like the belief in the evil eye, you feel the constant, hostile gaze of the Titans upon you, and these rituals are your desperate attempt to deflect it. You don't build grand temples or ziggurats to invite your gods down, as people would in another world. The absolute last thing you want is Cronus or one of his lieutenants deciding to move into the neighborhood. Your entire spiritual life is designed to keep them at a great, and terrible distance. Anthropologists in a different timeline will debate the function of sacrifice. Was it a gift to gain favor, a payment for rain, or a good harvest, or a way to bond with a deity? You could answer their question easily. It's protection money, it's a bribe. You see it most clearly in the coastal tribes you sometimes encounter during your foraging migrations. They live in perpetual fear of Oceanus's rage. They will take a third of every major hunt, whole haunches of meat, precious hides, and cast them into the furious, churning sea. The ocean simply swallows the offering with a roar, giving nothing back. The offering isn't for a safe voyage, as no one would ever attempt one. It's a plea for the ocean to not get any angrier, to not creep further inland and swallow their miserable huts. But the most important rituals are for the king himself, Cronus, the god of time that devours all things. You cannot offer him something to build with or something to enjoy. You offer him the only thing he truly values, decay. The first edible root you find, the first handful of berries, these are not for the tribe. They are taken to a flat, dark stone recessed in the back of the cave, the first fruit's altar. The offering is placed there and simply left. You watch for days as it softens, darkens, and is slowly consumed by mold and rot. This is your tribute to the Lord of Stagnation. It is an offering that says, we understand. Nothing is meant to last. Nothing is meant to grow. We embrace the rot. After the rituals are done, there is no feeling of catharsis, no sense of divine connection or grace. There is only the cold, hollow relief of a crisis averted. For now, you have paid the tax. You have shown your deference. You have survived another day without being smote from existence by a bore. The seasons turn, but the world does not. You are older now. The dull ache in your back has settled in for good, a permanent resident in your bones. Your hands are a roadmap of scars from flint shards and struggles with thorny bushes. You have children of your own with the same haunted eyes as everyone else. You were born in this cave. Your father, before he was taken by a lung sickness, was born in this cave. His father, killed in a landslide that felt suspiciously deliberate, was also born here. Nothing has changed. Not the shape of the rocks you huddle behind, not the taste of the water, and certainly not the crude axe head you clutch in your hand. It is a perfect copy of the one your father used, because to make a better one would be to invite disaster. This is the endless age of stone. In the world that might have been, the ages would have names like bronze and iron, each marking a lurch forward in human capability. They would represent change, for better or worse. Your age has no name because names are for things that are distinct from other things. Your existence is a flat, infinite line. The only inheritance you will ever leave your children is your favorite rock. This is it. This is forever. Historians and economists in another reality still argue about the primary drivers of human progress. Was it the pressure of scarcity, the luxury of surplus, or the simple spark of human ingenuity? Your life is a grim experiment that proves progress requires a delicate balance, one that has been purposefully shattered. Scarcity is not a pressure that inspires innovation. It is a crushing weight that leaves no room for any thought beyond the next mouthful. Surplus is a forbidden dream, a lesson taught by the ghost of Prometheus. And ingenuity is a death sentence. Your culture is locked in a state of enforced atavism, a constant, deliberate reversion to the baseline. Any social or technological mutation is ruthlessly culled from the gene pool of ideas. Your tribe's oral history is a testament to this. There are no epics, no heroes' journeys. There is only one story, the great cautionary tale. The story of the Titan's son who taught the first people how to coax life from the dirt, and of the silence and sorrow that followed. Mnemosyne, the Titaness of memory, has done her job well. It is the only story that needs to be told. It answers every question. Why don't we build better shelters? Remember the green shoots. Why don't we travel to see what's beyond the horizon? Remember the green shoots. Why don't we wish for a better life? Remember the green shoots and the God who was punished for daring to think we deserved one. The story wouldn't make for a very exciting documentary series. Episode 500. A man hits a rock with another rock again. Somewhere in a universe of branching possibilities, hunter-gatherers with tools no more advanced than your own would gather to build marvels. They would erect the great stone rings of Göbekli Tepe, a vast and complex temple built by a people with no agriculture to support them. It would stand as a testament to the power of shared vision, of social organization, of a spiritual life that sought to build and create. The very thought of it is so alien to you, it might as well be a story about flying fish. To organize on such a scale would be the height of hubris. To build something that reached for the sky would be to personally invite the attention of the gods you spend every waking moment trying to avoid. So you live your life in a loop. You teach your son how to flake a piece of flint just so, not too sharp, not too fine. You show him which grubs are safe to eat and which will make him sick. You teach him the chance of appeasement and the proper way to bow his head on the sun's stone. This is the extent of your career progression, finding a slightly less damp spot in the cave to sleep in. The concept of a future that is different from the present is a muscle your mind does not have. There is today's hunger and the certainty of tomorrow's hunger. The world is a museum, and you are one of the permanent, unchanging exhibits. You sit at the mouth of the cave, the same vantage point your great-great-grandfather had, and you look out. The mountain across the valley has not eroded 1 inch. The hateful white sun is tracing the same merciless path across the sky. The wind whispers the same empty promises. The age of stone is not a phase in your The endless, grinding stillness you experience on earth is merely a perfect reflection of the state of affairs in heaven. You must now lift your gaze from the dusty ground and look back to the peak of Mount Othrys, the black heart of the cosmos. Your perspective shifts, becoming once more that of an unseen observer floating through the adamantine halls of the Titan court. Eons have passed since the victory, but the fortress has not mellowed. It has grown colder, more silent. The air is thin and heavy, like that in a sealed tomb. The great titans do not congregate here. They brood in their assigned corners of the universe and only come when summoned, and they are being summoned more and more often. The problem with achieving absolute victory is that you run out of external enemies. And for a being like Cronus, whose entire consciousness is a fortress built on paranoia, an absence of threats is the most threatening thing of all. His deep-seated fear, having consumed his father and his children, has now turned, by necessity, on his own brothers. The very allies who secured his throne are now the prime suspects in his silent, internal trial. His management style has evolved from trust, but verify into something more like assume treason and punish preemptively. At the foot of his jagged throne rests a smooth, grey stone, about the size of a man. It is the Omphalos, the rock his mother Rhea once wrapped in swaddling clothes to trick him. He keeps it as a trophy, a paperweight for his anxieties, a constant reminder that betrayal can be disguised as love. You watch him sitting motionless for days on end, his vast consciousness not at peace, but roving, searching, probing the domains of his brothers for the slightest hint of dissent. He summons Iapetus, your old warden. The Titan of the West stands before the throne, his form stooped not with age, but with a weary resignation. Cronus speaks, his voice a low rumble. The mortals are too quiet, he accuses. Your son, the traitor, taught them the trick of hope. Are you certain you stamped it all out, or does a shred of his sentimentality live on in you? It is not a question, it is an indictment. Iapetus can only bow his head and promise to redouble his grim work, knowing that nothing he does will ever be enough to wash the stain of Prometheus from his family line. The instrument of Cronus's paranoia is Cronus, the inquisitor of thought. Once tasked with policing mortals, his portfolio has expanded. He has become Cronus's spy master, his whispers the most feared sound on Othries. He is, without question, the least popular employee of the millennium. Cronus moves through the court with a chilling stillness, his eyes missing nothing. He reports on a conversation between Hyperion and his wife Thea, twisting their words into a conspiracy. He notes that Oceanus's tides seem to run with a hint of defiance. He fosters the king's fear, because a feared king makes his spy master indispensable. And so, the cracks begin to show. The whispers start. Far from the listening ears of Cronus, in the deepest trenches of the sea, Oceanus meets with his sister wife Tethys. He asked for a census of every living thing in my waters. The sea god boils, his voice churning the abyss. An impossible task, a deliberate humiliation. On a lonely mountaintop, under the cold light of his daughter Selene, Hyperion confers with his brother Creus. He questions the path of the sun. The Titan of Light says, his own glow seeming to dim with fury. He implies I would use my light to hide a rebellion, as if I would plunge the world into darkness for anyone. This is the classic, tragic arc of hubris leading to nemesis. Cronus's excessive need for control is the pride that is birthing his own downfall. Political theorists in another world would argue whether a state built exclusively on fear can be stable, or if its own internal pressures must inevitably cause it to collapse. Here on Mount Othries, the theory is being put to the test, and the adamantine walls are beginning to sweat. The Titanesses, once relegated to silent symbols, become the conduits for this growing dissent. Rhea, Cronus's queen, her heart a cold stone of hatred for her husband, carries messages of solidarity between the disgruntled brothers. She and Thea and Phoebe organize these secret discussions, creating a network of shared grievance. It's the most high-stakes, depressing book club ever, where the reading material is their own oppression. They don't speak of open rebellion, not yet. The fear of Cronus is still too potent, but they speak of a time before. A time when their domains were their own, when their king was a brother, not a warden. You drift from one secret meeting to another, a ghost carrying the scent of salt from Oceanus's trench to the high, clear air of Hyperion's peak. The whispers of sedition on Mount Othrys are a symptom of the rot, but not its cause. The true source of the coming storm lies deeper. You must now turn your attention from the cold halls of the king and the miserable caves of humanity and sink your consciousness down into the warm, living heart of the world itself. Here in the planetary dark, a mind has been sleeping. It is Gaia, the Earth Mother, the primordial parent of the Titans themselves. She is not a being of rock and soil. The rock and soil are her. And for untold ages, she has felt the joyless weight of her son's reign as a suffocating blanket. Her nature is one of creation, of chaotic and beautiful fecundity, of life bursting forth in endless, surprising forms. The reign of Cronus is the antithesis of this. It is an age of sterile stone, of suppressed life, of fear that poisons the very soil. The offerings that seep into her essence are not joyful libations, but the bitter taste of rotting fruit and terror. The constant, rhythmic thump of a good tool being broken on a rock is a jarring, hateful beat against her skin. She is a mother watching her children force her other, younger children, humanity, to live in a perpetual state of stillborn misery. Her discontent has been a slow, simmering magma, but now it is beginning to rise. You are there when she finally begins to move. It starts as a low hum, a shudder that begins in the planet's core. On the surface, the Titans feel it. It is an earthquake, but it is unlike any random tremor. Its epicenter is directly beneath the foundations of Mount Othrys. The adamantine walls groan. The jagged throne of Cronus vibrates, and the omphalos, stone at its foot, rattles against the floor. It is not a destructive quake, not yet. It is a message. It says, I am here, and I am not pleased. Cronus, in his ever-deepening paranoia, does not recognize the voice of his mother. He sees only another conspiracy. He accuses his brothers of fomenting rebellion in the very bones of the world, an impossible accusation that only serves to widen the cracks in their alliance. He can't exactly fire the planet, so he blames those nearest to him. Gaia's rebellion is subtle, a form of cosmic, passive-aggressive landscaping. Her actions are deniable, cloaked in the guise of natural phenomena. A volcano, dormant for millennia, erupts with a fury that dwarfs the historical explosion of Thera. It spews a thick, grey cloud of ash into the sky, a direct challenge to Hyperion's authority. For weeks, the relentless sun is a dim, hazy ghost, and the world below is plunged into a cool twilight. In this blessed gloom, you see life stir. Hiding from the sun is no longer necessary. Humans venture out, their faces turned up to the strange, soft sky with a forgotten sense of wonder. It is a brief respite, but it is a taste of a different world. This is the reawakening of the old power, the rise of the chthonic deities, the gods of the earth, against the ruling celestial powers. Gaia is the ultimate chthonic being, and she is reminding her children that their sky-high thrones rest upon her. They are finding out, to their dismay, that their mother is the ground beneath their feet, and she is very, very unhappy. The burgeoning field of geomythology seeks to find the kernel of truth in ancient stories, debating whether myths of floods and fires are distorted memories of real catastrophes. In this world, you are watching the birth of 1,000 such myths. A tribe makes its desperate offering to Oceanus, only for a sinkhole to open up and swallow the altar, a clear sign of the Earth Mother's disapproval. A landslide with uncanny precision buries a crew of Iapetus's shadowy enforcers. In hidden valleys, shielded by mountains, Gaia concentrates her power. The ground bursts with life. Flowers of impossible color bloom overnight. Strange, gentle beasts, seen nowhere else in the world, emerge from the forests. These become her sanctuaries, tiny pockets of defiance against the gray, stagnant world order. The Titans are powerless. Oceanus can command the sea, but not the seabed. Hyperion can glare at the ash cloud, but he cannot disperse it. Creus can fix the stars, but he cannot stop the ground from shaking. Their rule, which seemed so absolute, is revealed to have a foundational weakness. They do not control their own home. Cronus roars his frustration from his trembling mountain, but his rage is impotent. He cannot fight an earthquake. He cannot put a volcano in chains. The Earth Mother's discontent has introduced a new, unpredictable variable into the grim equation of the cosmos. The Titans are now not. Your world is shaking, not just from the deep, resonant groans of the unhappy Earth, but from the fracturing of your own tribe's spirit. The rituals of appeasement have grown more frantic, more desperate, as Gaia's subtle rebellion disrupts the grim certainty of your lives. A foraging expedition, once a predictable loop around your territory, is now a dangerous gamble. The old paths are gone, erased by landslides. The old watering holes have vanished. It is on one such desperate trip, pushed far into an unknown, rocky maze of canyons, that you find it. You are tracking a creature you have never seen before, a deer-like beast with fur the color of moss and an unnervingly calm demeanor. It seems to be leading you, a guide of souls, a psychopomp, as the ancients would say, but in reverse, leading not to the land of the dead, but to a pocket of impossible life. The beast disappears through a fissure in the rock you would have otherwise missed. Driven by hunger and a strange, unnamed curiosity, you follow. You emerge into a hidden valley, and the air that fills your lungs is so different that you almost choke on it. It's warm, humid, and sweet, with the scent of blossoms and damp earth. Before you is a scene from a dream you've never had. A stream of clear, clean water runs through a meadow of knee-high grass, dotted with flowers of impossible blues and reds. The light from Hyperion's sun seems to be filtered here, softened by the high canyon walls, falling in gentle, dappled patterns. It's the nicest apocalyptic bunker you have ever seen. And there are people, but they are not like your people. They stand straight. Their movements are fluid, not the hunched, fearful scuttling you have always known. A woman is humming a simple tune as she weaves reeds into a mat. Two children are laughing, an alien sound, as they chase each other by the stream. You are discovered, and you flinch, expecting a club. Instead, a man with kind eyes offers you a piece of fruit. It is sweet and juicy, and you realize with a jolt that your diet is not, in fact, supposed to be based entirely on sadness and dirt. This is one of Gaia's sanctuaries, and these people are its keepers. They are a lost tribe, one that stumbled into this valley generations ago. Shielded from the worst of the Titans' oppressive rule, they have nurtured something forbidden. That evening, they show you their secret. In a deep cave, hidden behind a woven curtain, is a small chamber. In the center, a single, pure white feather rests on a stone. Around it are other symbols, a carved, three-pronged stick. a stylized image of an owl. A small, dark stone with a crude helmet etched upon it. These people have not forgotten. They cling to the memory of the defeated Olympians. This is a mystery cult, a secret religion of hope. Historians of religion in our world still debate the rise of such cults, asking if they were a response to impersonal state religion or a search for a more emotional connection to the divine. Here, the answer is simple. When the state religion is one of unrelenting terror, a personal connection to a forbidden hope is the only thing that can keep a soul alive. Their faith is like the ancient Eleusinian mysteries, a secret rite that promised a better existence to its initiates. They don't pray to a thundering king in the sky. Their Zeus is the memory of a clear sky, the hope of a day without fear. The feather is his symbol. They see Gia's earthquakes and connect them to the old tales of Poseidon the Earthshaker, believing he is stirring in his prison. The dark helmet is for Hades, not as a lord of death, but as a guardian of the deep earth, the keeper of secrets and seeds like their own, waiting for the right time to grow. Their prayers are whispers. Their rituals are stories told in the dark, preserving the names of the 12. Their offerings, left at the mouth of the cave for Gia, are not bribes of rotting fruit, but garlands of the brightest flowers, a joyful thank you for their refuge. Their idea of a secret is a bit more uplifting than your tribe's, which usually involves where you've hidden an extra grub. A woman, an elder, shows you a small, fired clay statue of a woman with a stalk of wheat. Demeter, she whispers the name, a sound full of reverence and loss, she who gives the grain. They have a small, cultivated patch of this grain, a gift from the valley's unnaturally fertile soil. They are doing what Prometheus was punished for, but in secret, under Gia's protection. You stay for days, a silent, stunned guest. You learn what it is to eat until you are full. You learn what a story that isn't a warning sounds like. You see a craftsman painstakingly sanding a piece of wood, not just for function, but for the pleasure of its smooth, pleasing shape. These people have more than survival. They have a culture. And at the heart of it is their dangerous, fragile secret. They believe the Titans are not eternal. They believe the tremors in the earth are the first groans of a changing age. They believe the Olympians will one day return. And the fragile hope you discovered in Gia's hidden sanctuary is a secret whispered in a soundproof room. But outside, the universe is beginning to scream. The pressure cooker on Mount Othrys, shaken by Gia's rebellion and pressurized by Cronus's paranoia, is about to explode. The final trigger comes not from a whisper, but from a roar from the planet's core. Gia, in her most audacious move yet, sends a tremor so powerful it cracks the base of the mountain fortress and splits one of the lesser Titan-wrought dams in the highlands, releasing a flash flood that wipes a whole region clean of Cronus's oppressive order. For the king, this is the final, irrefutable proof of conspiracy. He summons his brothers, his face a mask of cold, absolute fury. He doesn't just accuse, he convicts. Military historians in our world debate the effectiveness of decapitation strikes, targeting enemy leadership to collapse their cause. Cronus, in his rage, attempts just that. He singles out Hyperion, whose light Gia's ash clouds have defied, and Oceanus, whose waters she has mimicked. He declares them traitors, collaborators with a phantom enemy, and in a terrifying display of power, he attempts to use his control over time and gravity to wrench their very domains from them. He fails. It is one thing to bully a defeated child or a terrified mortal. It is another to strip a primordial being of its own essence. The instant Cronus's power lashes out, Hyperion retaliates. He doesn't just defend, he attacks. The sun, his instrument of surveillance, becomes a weapon of war. A focused beam of pure, incandescent light, hotter than 1,000 forges, lances across the heavens and strikes the peak of Mount Othrys, turning adamantine rock to slag. On the other side of the world, Oceanus rises from his depths, a being of colossal rage, and the sea rises with him. The war has begun. The schism is instantaneous and absolute. The simmering tensions erupt into open loyalties. Cronus, the spymaster, and the brutish Atlas immediately side with Cronus, their natures tied to order and control, even a tyrannical one. But Iapetus, his spirit finally broken by the endless accusations, sides with his brothers, his heart heavy with the memory of his abandoned son. The Titanesses, led by a vengeful Rhea, throw their considerable influence behind the rebels. The universe's Homeowners Association meeting has officially gotten out of hand. Brother is now against brother, a second, even more bitter time. This is not the Titanomachy. This is a civil war. In Greek political thought, the worst possible state for a city was stasis, a condition of internal strife that paralyzed and destroyed it from within. The cosmos has now entered a state of stasis. The first battles are terrifying. Hyperion's sky assaults are met by Cronus warping space and time to create shields of compressed nothingness. The light show in the heavens is less aurora borealis, more existential terror. The rebels use their knowledge of the world against the king. Iapetus triggers landslides to bury Cronus's patrols. Themis, the Titaness of law, uses her insight into cosmic rules to find loopholes in the king's power. The decisive early conflict happens in the waters and the sky above them, a celestial battle of Actium that will set the course for the war. Oceanus marshals the full, monstrous power of the world's oceans, while Cronus sends his loyalists to attack from above. The sea boils as light lances into it. Gargantuan tsunamis, miles high, rise up to claw at the skyborne attackers. The world, for so long held in a state of rigid quiet, is now a chaotic battlefield where the elements themselves have taken sides. This is what happens when your divine monarchy lacks a proper dispute resolution process. From the mortal perspective, it is the apocalypse. The sun flickers, sometimes dimming to a blood-red cinder, sometimes blazing with a terrifying, destructive heat as Hyperion diverts his attention to combat. The moon vanishes for nights on end. The seas do not just rage at the coasts, they surge inland, drowning landscapes that have never known salt. Gia's earthquakes become a constant, rolling thunder beneath your feet, her initial rebellion now lost in the greater chaos of her children's war. The eternal, leaden sky of Cronus's peace is gone. It has been replaced by a canvas of pure chaos. Streaks of golden ichor, the blood of wounded gods, fall like rain. The grinding of divine armor and the shockwaves of cosmic blows are the new thunder. The endless age of the apocalypse has arrived, and it is terribly loud. The quiet, fragile peace of your hidden sanctuary is shattered. The gentle, filtered light is now strobed by the celestial combat raging miles above. The ground shudders constantly. no longer with the purposeful rhythm of Gia's warnings, but with the chaotic spasms of a world in torment. You have seen what hope looks like, and now you are forced to watch as the universe tears itself apart in a war that has no place for such things. The choice you faced, to stay or to go, has been rendered meaningless. The war has come to you. The divine conflict cannot remain in the heavens. The Titans, for all their power, are few. They need armies. They need worshippers to channel their power, to hold territory, to serve as pawns in their great cosmic game. And so they turn to humanity. For the first time, the gods are taking a direct interest in your kind. It is not a blessing. You huddle in the sanctuary as a being of pure, golden light descends. It is an emissary of Hyperion. It does not speak of hope or freedom. It speaks of a simple, brutal choice. The usurper Cronus falls, the being announces, its voice like the chiming of hot glass. The true powers of sun and sea offer you a choice. Stand with us, and you may survive. Stand against us, and you will be erased by the new dawn. It is not a negotiation. It is a draft notice. Your new community, which has long nurtured a secret hatred for the old order, accepts. What other choice is there? To refuse is to be left undefended when Cronus's forces inevitably find this pocket of Gia's defiance. And so you choose the lesser of two monstrous evils. At least this evil promises a future that isn't the endless, grinding gray of the past. The divine ballot had two options, and both were terrifying. You learn that your old tribe, the one you fled, faced a similar choice. An agent of Cronus, a shadowy thing of whispers and fear, came to them. It offered them order amidst the chaos. It promised them strength. It gave their fear a purpose. You see them now, sometimes, in the distance. They are no longer a ragged band of scavengers. They are a grim war party, their faces painted with the jagged symbol of Cronus's sickle. They march with a terrifying, disciplined dread. They are the army of the status quo. Your own life is transformed. You are given a new purpose, soldier. You are taught how to fight not just for a scrap of meat, but for a cause. The flimsy, beautiful hope of Olympian worship is put away, a childish dream. Now you engage in new rituals. Before a raid, you and the other warriors chant the name of Hyperion, working yourselves into a terrifying frenzy, feeling a phantom, borrowed power course through your veins. You have seen men, in the grip of this ecstatic state, perform feats of strength and savagery they would never have thought possible, their minds temporarily possessed by their distant, warring patron. You have finally discovered organized religion, and the very first thing you do with it is learn how to kill your neighbors more efficiently. Your first battle is against a tribe that pledged loyalty to Cronus. They live only 2 valleys away. You have likely scavenged the same hillsides your entire life. Now you are told they are the enemy. The sociologists of another world would call it the narcissism of small differences, the tendency of closely related groups to engage in the most vicious hatreds. You don't know such theories. You only know that the man running at you with a stone axe has the same terrified eyes as you do. The war that follows is a grim, human-sized echo of the Peloponnesian War, a great power conflict where smaller cities were forced to choose sides and blade for their patrons. This is your new career path, divinely sanctioned cannon fodder. The fight is a muddy, desperate, and pathetic affair. It is a brawl of grunting, screaming men, fighting over a barren ridge that Hyperion wants as a staging ground. You see the banners of Cronus, crude sickles painted in ash on stiff hides. You see the banners of your own side, sunbursts painted in berry juice. And you kill, because if you don't, you will be killed. After the skirmish is over, you stand, panting, over the body of a man you have just slain. His face is smeared with mud and blood, but you recognize him. You saw him once. The proxy war you are forced to fight is but a pale, muddy shadow of the real conflict. As the years of struggle grind on, the war in the heavens escalates beyond all reason. The thin veneer of strategy is scoured away, leaving only raw, desperate power. This is the endgame. This is the Titan Ragnarök, the twilight of the gods, a final, screaming spasm of a dying cosmic order. From your worm's eye view, you can only witness the horrifying symptoms. The sun no longer just flickers. It sometimes swells to fill a quarter of the sky, boiling rivers and turning sand to glass, before shrinking to a pinpoint of cold light. The oceans pull back from the shorelines for miles, only to return as towering walls of black water that permanently redraw the continents. The Titans are no longer trying to win. They are trying not to lose. They have thrown the rulebook into a star and are tearing reality apart to get at each other. You watch as a mountain, miles away, simply ceases to exist, de-aged into dust by Cronus's fraying control over time. You see a bolt of pure darkness, a negation of light from the rebel forces, slice across the sky, and where it passes, the stars themselves are gone forever. The divine management has been fired, and the replacements are burning down the office. The final battle happens everywhere at once. It is a storm of conflicting impossibilities. At its heart, on the shattered stump of what was once Mount Othrys, Cronus, the king of Stasis, finally confronts the leaders of the rebellion. He faces Hyperion, Oceanus, and Iapetus, his brothers, his rivals. It is not a duel. It is a mutual suicide pact. Cronus unleashes the full, terrifying power of his nature, attempting to unmake them, to rewind their very existence. In response, they combine their own primordial might, the fury of the first light, the crushing weight of the world's seas, the brute strength of the earth's foundations, and focus it all on him. There is a moment of absolute bone-white silence that is louder than any sound you have ever heard. And in that moment, the universe breaks. There is no victor. There is no triumphant roar. Their ultimate energies, perfectly opposed, cancel each other out in a cataclysm of mutual annihilation. Cronus is not killed, but his consciousness is shattered, his hold on time and space broken into a billion useless fragments. He is a fallen king, a ghost haunting his own empty throne, his power bleeding out into the void. The rebels fare no better. Hyperion's light is forever dimmed, his fires banked to a pale, eternal twilight. Oceanus is exhausted, his connection to the seas severed, leaving them vast, deep, and mindless. Iapetus is a broken shell. The lesser titans on both sides are simply erased in the feedback loop, their energy dissipated into the cosmos. The warranty on reality has officially expired. The change is not immediate, but it is absolute. It is a great fading. It is the onset of a universal entropy. The highly concentrated energy of the divine order, both the oppressive structure of Cronus and the chaotic power of the rebels, has been spent. The system has wound down. You feel it on the battlefield. You are locked in a desperate struggle with a warrior from a rival tribe, your muscles screaming, your mind alight with the borrowed, ecstatic rage of your patron god, when suddenly it's gone. The divine power cuts out like a lamp being unplugged. You stumble, the fire in your veins turning to ash. Your opponent looks just as lost, his face a mask of confusion. You both stop and look at the sky. It is calm. The terrifying light show is over. The ground is still. The air no longer hums with power. It is just air. This is the great silence. The gods have not abandoned you. They have cancelled each other out. Their radio signals have gone to static. Philosophers of history in another world would debate the end of history, the idea of a final, stable state for humanity. You are living through a far more literal end of history. The grand, bloody narrative of the gods, the story that has defined every moment of your life, is over. The gods have fought themselves to a standstill. The silence that falls upon the battlefield is the most profound thing you have ever experienced. It is not the absence of noise, but the absence of presence. The humming, terrifying energy that has saturated the world your entire life is gone. You look at the man opposite you, his face painted with the enemy's sigil, and you see not a foe, but a fellow survivor. There is no reason to fight anymore. Wordlessly, you both lower your crude weapons. There is no victory, no treaty. There is only the end. You turn and begin the long, dazed walk back to the hidden valley, a journey through a world that has become a stranger to itself. This is the beginning of the long, quiet twilight. The fading is slow, like the cooling of a planetary corpse. You return to your sanctuary to find its magic is seeping away. The vibrant, impossible colors of the flowers have muted to ordinary shades. The stream, once so clear and sweet, is now just water. The gentle, moss-furred beasts grow wary and scarce, their divine purpose extinguished. The last vestiges of Gia's defiant life are succumbing to the new, mundane reality. The gods themselves are now what scholars would call deus otiosus, idle gods, but their idleness comes not from choice, but from ruin. They are ghosts, echoes fading in an empty hall. Humanity is now faced with a terrifying new freedom. Your tribe no longer performs the ecstatic rituals to Hyperion because they grant no power. You no longer see the grim war parties of Cronus, for they have no king to fight for. The fear of divine retribution is gone, but so is the certainty. If a child sickens, it is not the act of a cruel god, but a failure of health. If a drought comes, it is not a punishment, but a lack of rain. For the first time, humanity is responsible for itself, and the burden is crushing. Your societies, which had been organized by the pressures of the divine war, now crumble. It is a worldwide Bronze Age collapse, as the systems that held you together have evaporated, leaving only confused and scattered tribes. Sociologists in our world still debate whether secularization leads to moral decay or a new humanistic ethics. You are living the first chapter of that great question. Without gods to fear, some men become monsters. Others, faced with the vast, silent emptiness, become kinder, realizing that they are all they have. The old proxy wars are over, but new, smaller, more pathetic wars begin, fights over a patch of fertile land, a clean water source. There are no gods to cheer you on. There is only the struggle. Years pass, decades. You become an elder, your skin a parchment of wrinkles. your memories a collection of unbelievable myths. You sit with the children of the tribe, children born into the great silence, and you try to tell them what it was like. You speak of a sun that was a god's burning eye, of a sea that was a living being's rage, of a time when the very ground trembled with a mother's sorrow. You tell them of gods who fought in the heavens, their blood raining down as golden ichor. They look at you with a mixture of pity and disbelief. They see a sky with a pale, warmish star. They see an ocean that is just water. They feel a ground that is still and silent. To them, your stories are the ramblings of a very old man. The world is what it is, a hard, quiet, scarred, and magicless place. The divine age is over, its memory now nothing more than a fanciful tale. And so, the age of gods and monsters fades into the long silence of a world left to its own devices. The echoes of their war, the scars on the land, all become just features of a world that no longer remembers its own violent creation. The great, terrifying story is over, sinking into the quiet earth like a forgotten stone. But that story, with all its sound and fury, was for another time, another place. For you now here, the only sound is the gentle quiet of your own room, the soft and steady rhythm of your own breathing. The silence that fell upon that broken world was one of terror and emptiness, but the silence that surrounds you now is one of peace, a soft blanket for your tired mind. Let the darkness behind your eyes be a gentle, empty sky, free of warring gods or burning suns. Let the weight of your own body be a comforting anchor, holding you safely in your bed. There are no more battles to witness, no more worlds to fear for. There is only this stillness, this softness, this slow and gentle drift into the sweet, quiet